How do we even begin a video like this, guys? I have no idea. I guess, first of all, by simply starting the usual way, right? Alright, what's up, everybody? We have arrived at the Season 4 Part 2 finale of Attack on Titan. What an absolutely bittersweet moment this is. And, yeah, you know what I was thinking about regarding this show? Everything about it, everything about this whole journey of me watching it on YouTube as well has already become so nostalgic. It's become iconic, right? Even the way I'm starting off these videos, so many people had been talking about that. It's something that like had never been in my head. Like, oh yeah, I always thought of my videos that way. But suddenly along the journey, you suddenly start getting these comments from people saying, all right, well, there's my usual, all right, what's up, everybody, fix, for the week. And it's like, oh my God, it's so great because I think it says so much. It speaks volumes about what it's like to go through an experience like this, right? It was in September of last year, 2021, almost for me right now, nine months ago, I think, that I started this crazy experiment for me at the time. I had never done reaction videos. I'd been on YouTube for a long time, but reaction videos was something I was still completely unexperienced with. It was the type of content that I myself enjoyed a lot for the shows that I was a big fan of. And I wanted to give it a go. And I just had this crazy idea, like, let me step out of my comfort zone and do something that's completely unfamiliar with me, right? And so I picked anime. Because with anime, I always had these sort of preconceived notions, these prejudices or whatever you call it, right? Of like, oh, I don't like this stuff. It's something that even, my viewers before, who already knew about my, my activities online, before I started doing this, I got a huge new audience with these Attack on Titan reactions. But yeah, all my viewers before that, we would kind of, go back and forth and have these funny conversations where they would taunt me about it all the time, right? Like, you should watch anime one day or something. And I'd always say, nah, it's not for me. And so, yeah, again, it was sort of, I was always open-minded towards it, but I wasn't necessarily, I could have never expected to get the amount of enjoyment out of this show and to understand what this show was going to be before actually seeing it with my own eyes, right? And so, one day for the hell of it, I just decided to go with it. And I guess that's the thing too. It's another thing that I was thinking about. So I didn't know much about anime and I didn't know much about the popular shows. The name that I'd been hearing all this time was Attack on Titan, right? That's like what everybody was always talking about. And going into it, having no idea of what it is, I'm pretty sure you'll agree with me that just looking at the title alone, Attack on Titan, it's super easy to almost immediately write it off. It's such a minimalistic title. It says nothing. It's like, oh yeah, it's a show about attacking titans, right? And again, it's like, I almost couldn't understand it. Why is this show so popular? What is it that people love so much about the show? Surely it's just going to be about the, like, oh, it will be well animated and people like the fight sequences in it, and that's what the show is, right? And obviously that's just one of the many aspects now realizing what the show is that actually are really good about it. So don't get me wrong, but it's not something that naturally gets me pumped or gets me going like, oh, I can't wait to watch this. I'm always in it for the story and for the characters. I think that's the funny thing too. Again, it's almost impossible not to repeat yourself for the so many time when you've been doing 90 episodes like this with hugely long intros and outros talking about all the facets of the show. So for me, myself, I always, I can be very critical about myself and sort of second guess myself, being like, oh, I've said this so many times. That's a dumb thing to point out again. Let me just re-record this intro. And that's literally what I end up doing. I might be 10 minutes on the way already. And I'm just like, nah, I'm going to get, redo it all over again. But I think it's also super easy to lose your train of thoughts, as you can see. But I think that, it was so easy to go into it and not understand what a complex puzzle this would end up being. Where even in the very first season of it, as great as the first 10 episodes were, I still think those are like a huge highlight of the show, and they immediately managed to kind of get me into it. But the first season of the show, it really was like a show about fighting titans, And that completely lined up with the title of it. And yes, of course, I realized very quickly, like, okay, there's some intrigue here, and there's some questions being posed to you that they're not answering straight away. This is an interesting of tackling it. And like, that's so fascinating how I just finished season 1 and I still don't actually know what the hell is going on. That's so weird. I've never seen a show or a movie or anything tackle it like that before. But again, it was a journey. It was a journey of me discovering what the show was going to be in the first place. It was a journey discovering what the message of it was that it was going to tell, right? Because again, looking back at it now, the first 3 seasons of it was something completely different actually from what the 4th season now I feel is, where the first 3 seasons could be described or summarized as a quest for the truth. But then the 4th season is like, now that we have the truth, and of course we're still getting questions answered, right? Even up to the most recent sort of holy trinity of episodes again that finally filled in those last little gaps about Grisha's involvement and everything, and Amir and the whole backstory there and stuff, right? But it's so cool how now this last season, the question I still ask myself is, but what was the purpose of it all? What is Isayama ultimately trying to tell? And the honest answer is that I still have no idea. I'm completely ignorant towards it. It's such... I can't stress out enough what an amazing accomplishment it is of this show, episode by episode, to feed you information. And for Isayama, I'm pretty sure to just literally know what kind of questions he was going to put into your head, what he was going to make you think, what he was going to make you speculate about, and what he literally wanted you to believe in a certain moment, only to twist it around an episode later. Where even now, 90 episodes into the show, knowing that there is still one final part of it left, which is only going to be, from what I heard, about 8, 9, 10 episodes, max, judging by the amount of chapters in the manga. I have no idea what the ultimate conclusion is that Isayama wants to reach with the story. Is the conclusion going to be that war is an everlasting reality of humanity? Is the conclusion going to be that talking it out and staying in conversation and trying our hardest to work to a solution can be fruitful and we can actually achieve it? It's impossible to tell right now because I don't know where the story is going to go. I have no idea how, everybody right now is planning on actually convincing Eren, because there doesn't seem to be any convincing him anymore, right? And Eren is very destined to just protect the Eldians by going at it with all of the Titans and destroying everything in his way. So how do they want to possibly achieve this? Can they? Is that a possibility? I don't know. That's something that I hope to be finding out still in this last episode, but even that might not be what I'll actually find out. I feel like that's where we're going to go with this episode, and we're going to get a better idea of that, and then that's going to set us up, of course, for an actual final climax. But again, there's so much speculation to be done about it, and at the same time, man, you can point out so many things about this show. I went into it thinking like, oh yeah, there's a couple of characters that I will like. But it actually ended up being like, no, there's pretty much like a whole slew of 10 to 20 characters that you'll fall in love with. I could have never seen that coming. Again, could have never seen coming how episode by episode we were going to learn more. We were going to get the most crazy plot twists. We were going to have so many philosophical topics to discuss and analyze and talk about. It's a gift. It's a complete gift of a show. And it's so easy right now getting to the end of it for me to feel super sad about it, right? Because that's, I think, the natural human emotion that you would feel in a moment like this. Like, I wish it would never end. But at the same time, one thing that I definitely learned is that it's, as easy as it is to be incredibly saddened by it all, you should be super grateful that it happened and grateful for the experience in general, right? Because, again, going into this in September, I could have never thought that we would be here now. As I'm recording this, it's June. As it's going up on YouTube, I think it will be even July. That I would be here saying all this stuff. Again, I was open-minded towards it. I thought I was going to enjoy it. I never thought it was going to be basically, I still look at it as like the greatest story I've ever witnessed. It's better than any movie, any show, any game that I've played. And I've always been a huge fan of storytelling, of character development. Those are the things that I look for in a show. and I don't, like again, I had my preconceived notions about anime. I don't even think necessarily that those might be wrong, or that, what I thought anime was still is, could be what it actually is for the most part. A show like this is a highlight among them. Everybody will say that, right? And therefore I question, could Isayama have possibly told this? Well, I mean, we already know the answer to that because he actually told it originally through a manga. So, it's not like this is a story that's impossible to tell in any other type of medium. He didn't need anime for it. But nonetheless, I would have never thought that an anime would exist that would tell this kind of story. It's, like I said, it's bittersweet, and I'm so grateful for it. I think the one thing that I have to express and that I have to point out as well is just how much better of an experience it was getting to share it with you all here on YouTube. I cannot stress that out enough, because I know myself, and I know that when I enjoy something, I will binge the shit out of it. So it's funny, I could mention an example, but literally a couple of days ago, I finally played a new, a game, I guess, that I had delayed for so long, Resident Evil Village. Came out already last year. I finally got around to playing it. I told myself all this time, like, you're going to get around to this at some point. And I ended up beating it within 2 days because I just enjoyed it a lot. But at the same time, binging something like that, you're not really going to remember the story in a couple weeks from now. Not that the story in that was anything special or anything compared to this, obviously. But even when I think about my other favorite shows, Breaking Bad, I binged that too in a couple of weeks. It wasn't until the second time that I watched it where it truly hit me, like, I actually fucking love this show, right? And I ended up watching it 5 more times afterwards. The first time around, that didn't even sink in with me. But with this, it's always been different because I took my time. I watched 2 episodes a week, but it's not just that. It's the community aspect of it, obviously. I had so many people who were on this journey with me, and it's still like an unreal experience because I knew that this is what it could be like, obviously, because I had experience with reaction videos and seeing other people do that, and getting to be part of their communities as well myself. But again, if you do it yourself here, it's like it still ends up being a lot different, and it still ends up being like, oh, this is what it's like. And I can't express enough how much I appreciate it about you, and how much I appreciate that you. Of course, there's always going to be a couple bad apples, right? And I tried my very best to ignore those, and just people that are eager to spoil stuff in advance or something. That's why I didn't really bother watching the YouTube or checking out the YouTube comments in particular too much. I had, people that I knew who would fill me in about those things. On Patreon, I had people that I felt like I could trust more there, and I never felt like they ruined anything for me. Where I know how easy it must have been, especially with a show like this that starts out as such a mystery. People always gave me the exact right information that I needed to answer the couple of questions that I really wanted to answer, to fill me in on a couple of things that I would overlook so easily because there was so much going on all at once. I think I think I'm making myself clear enough, right? But it's that made it something else. Every time I would actually finish an episode, I would go into my Discord where there's patrons there and telling them like, oh guys, I just watched this and this and this episode. Did I get this particular part right? And they would immediately fill me in. I didn't even have to get around to the editing process and putting the videos up already to basically get the answers that I needed so that I could just move on at my own pace and continue watching. It's been such a community-driven experience. I don't get to express that part of it enough, I feel, because I'm not, normally I'm just going to be honest about that. I'm not the most comfortable even expressing those type of things. But yeah, I think just today I saw through the YouTube app that there was some type of person who was leaving comments. Yesterday, that person left a comment on one of the Season 2 reactions. Today, it was on one of the Season 3 reactions. And it just tells me like, oh, this is a person that is actually binging through all of them right now. Right? And it's like, that's such an unreal thing to for some reason, even now still, as used as I am to it all, but to actually be aware of that people are doing this type of stuff, that there's people watching the full-length reactions, for example, right? And actually like wanting to see the whole thing with me. people that stick around for these 20 minute intros that I ended up doing sometimes. Another thing that I noticed, right, where like if you go to the reactions from the early parts of the show during season 1, they would be relatively short because I didn't quite know what to say yet, right? And it would be, kind of difficult and so many questions, but literally nothing of input I could give myself at the time. And as you're progressing through the reactions, you see the videos getting progressively longer too, which I think speaks volumes about how much more I got into it and how much, how much food for thought it gave me, how many things to actually talk about with you all, right? Where even in the most recent episodes, the discussions got so philosophical. And I'm not a philosophical person in the slightest. I'm very much a person that's in the here and now and that just like says, okay, this is what's going on. And I guess perhaps this is where I could see things going. And that's it. But, the story that it has become, which, like I said, is much more of a philosophical story, kind of a war story, right? About human morality, I guess, and choices that people make and different perspectives and all of that. It's again, the themes of the show, that's the one thing that I will say have resonated with me so much because I always have been a very open-minded person, I would say, but also just interested in exploring different viewpoints and trying to understand them, as easy as it is to dismiss other standpoints, right? But like all of these things I ended up loving about it so much, and I could have never possibly expected that going into a show called Attack on Titan, like I said, this could possibly be what would be coming out of it. Yeah. It still makes me a little bit quiet sometimes, and like I said, it's easy to lose your train of thoughts and to, second guess yourself and just kind of like lose track of what you're trying to say still because so many thoughts race through your head. But I think I've made it very clear how this show has made me feel over the course of all these episodes. That's why I don't even need to put so much pressure on myself to make sure that this is the perfect intro here or something, right? And that I get every single thing out of the way and every question answered and whatever, because I've had plenty of time to express all of these things. I talked about my favorite characters. I talked about, I could still mention all that stuff, although I think I've done so plenty of times, right? My favorite moments. Even talking about that it's just selling it short, because this show isn't about just a small list of favorite characters and a small list of favorite moments. It's one whole, right? It's one complete puzzle that every single episode we got a little piece added to it, only to make for something even greater and even better. What a fantastic ride it has been. And, of course, I guess that's the one last thing that I would want to say. I've always been a very sort of like, I would describe myself as a realist. I live in the here and now, and I take things at sort of surface level. Well, surface level is not the right way to put it, but I take it the way it is. And while it's so easy to say as a YouTuber, you're trying to get people excited, right? And to continue watching your videos, obviously, and stuff. And it's easy to just say like, oh yeah, guys, please make sure you stick around for the next couple of shows. And I hope you do. I really hope that this isn't the actual end of it. We're going to do the rewatch. We're going to do Death Note. We're going to do a bunch of other shows that people have been, recommending to me and that they say are at least close to on the same level or something, right? And I can't wait for that. I think those experiences are going to be great as well. I hope you're all going to be around for it too, obviously. There's going to be Season 3 Part 2. Well, Season 4 Part 3. Jesus Christ. I'm really getting confused there. But Season 4 Part 3 is still coming up next year. And that's going to be the true climax of it all, right? Which I'm going to be reacting to that the moment new episodes will be hitting. But I guess the one thing that I will say is like, I also very much realize that what I watched here was something special. And this experience that I had here, I'm never going to get that again. As much as I will want to replicate it, and as much as because I know it's been like that plenty of times with other shows for me too, or with other kinds of experiences. The first time that you watch something where you have no expectations going into it, and you realize how good the product is that you're getting, that's, again, those moments are rare. And I don't know if I'll ever get it again. And, I guess, again, all that I'm trying to say is like, I appreciate this for what it was. It's easy to feel sad about it, but for the most part, I'm just incredibly grateful. And I'm just happy that that this is what we got, and that because going into it, I would not have thought that this is all the stuff that I'd be saying, right? So I really feel like I'm starting to ramble here now. I'm starting to repeat myself a little bit too much. As far as the episode at hand goes, I'll still be talking about, sort of like where I see things going, I guess, by the end of it, because I hope that this episode will be giving us the information we need to kind of understand the direction that the last part could be going in. Then again, who knows? You never know with the show. But last episode was also, it was a great setup for this finale here. Maggot and Keith, of course, sacrificed themselves sort of for the greater good. All the characters started talking about how they couldn't really handle things anymore, and they really hoped that this would have been the final moment of bloodshed, I guess, to achieve the peaceful resolution that they so desperately hope to achieve. But yeah, I talked about it, I think, already. I don't necessarily know if that's a realistic, outcome for it. How is Eren going to react? I assume they will get to him in this episode, although they already talked about, of course, how it was going to take a little bit more time. They would need a couple of days to get this boat ready. And Eren would have already destroyed a couple of parts of Marley, including the Liberio, zone. But how are they, what are they going to do? How are they going to convince Eren? How is Eren going to react? It's super hard to foresee right now, what that could look like, but we're just going to dive in. Guys, let me point out once more, of course, that should you actually still at some point want to catch up on this entire journey with me and, go through it a second time or something, right? The videos will always be here on YouTube. My full-length reactions will always be up over on Patreon, so just a one-time monthly subscription will actually get you access to the entire library, so you can go through it if you feel like it. OVA reactions are up there as well. Again, we're going to be starting a bunch of new stuff after this, like the Attack on Titan rewatch, to actually... Yeah, did I even talk about that? I'm not even sure, but to see what it's like actually going through the show a second time, right? And seeing how much information was hidden from us all this time. What little parts they teased already, and what was so purposefully laid out for you to not understand the first time around, and now it is. It's going to be so fantastic once again. In there, I'll also get to reflect even more on everything right now. So, again, it's like I said, I put a lot of pressure on myself here in advance to get everything out of the way that I wanted for this intro, but at the same time I realize it really isn't done yet, right? We're gonna get part 3, we're gonna get the rewatch, so there will be plenty of time for me to discuss much more. I will be doing that there. We're gonna be watching Death Note and a couple of other shows in the future as well, so make sure that you're subscribed for that. And for now, let's actually, bring these Attack on Titan reactions, first time reactions for now, to an end here with Season 4 Part 2. So, let's get into it. This is it, guys. That's the question, but her saying that would make me think that she might be right then. What is this? Eren Is this episode gonna make me all nostalgic? That was quite the opening. Okay. Dude, I really was confused, like, that's Sasha, right? So this is them actually doing their undercover operation that we never got to see. I guess there really was a lot to still be cleared up there, right? Always. Oh my god. Jean feeling that embarrassment. Oh, how is Eren feeling about this right now? Oh, yeah. Man, this definitely had me caught way off guard here for a little bit. Realizing what they were showing us. Of course you would. Ah, nice. Get to see what ice cream tastes like. Flippin' cold. I don't know if you want to be giving away that you never had ice cream, because that's not the most common. That sounds kind of suspicious. What the hell is up with this weird pervert clown? What the kitty gang. Yeah, he's in a gang, but it's not so kitty. Oh, they don't give him ice cream? Like how much he's detesting them? Or what is she talking about? I guess so, right? He caught a robber. Oh, wow. Oh, now they hear him talking about those. Ah, okay. Oh, so Levi was protecting this kid in the end. It makes me wonder how Eren is gonna react now, though. If he is. I don't see Eren running with them. They specifically left him out there. Still has it, wow. Okay, he is with them. You really question what's going through his head all this time, though. Yeah, pretty much impossible, I guess. That's literally what I was about to say. It's so noble what they're trying to do, right? But I feel like in a way Eren was probably the only one here who truly understood that it was an impossible task, maybe. He's not even here, yeah. Oh, did he go after that little guy? Yeah, I guess so. Makes sense. Wiping his tears. Damn, I've been waiting for her to answer this since the very beginning. Offering them tea. In a language they don't understand. What, so they all went to have dinner with them? But realizing this, yeah, I can't imagine that Eren would go and try to actually, you know, destroy everyone, including these people. Look at them drunk as hell. Man, they had quite a night. This gives me so many flashbacks to a couple of episodes we've had in the past too, right? I think that was that one before Season 3 Part 2 started. The finale of Part 1, basically. That was them just like having this one last complete chaotic night. Oh, wow. Sasha puking? The hell? This is like... They're sort of... What is this actually? What is this room? Really? Is that when he abandoned them and never... Okay. It did seem like she wasn't saying the truth in that moment, or there was more to it. She was holding herself back. Although I don't know what the actual answer would have been. We're going way back. Compilation time, I see. Is that Flock? Okay, so he was talking to Historia too. But the way he was putting that was like he was ready to just destroy everybody, including the audience. Although I'm not sure if I interpreted that correctly. Oh, like that. So he just wants to erase their memories. I see, yeah. Okay, so this is about Mikasa. I mean, it might be as simple as that. Oh shit. Oh right, because he had lost his leg. He was pretending like you know, like he was injured. Yeah, he had to just cut that off himself. Jesus. Oh man, right. He had bandages over his eyes too. What, to protect themselves against Eren? I'm not sure if this will be enough though. So this is what Eren versus the world looks like? Oh man. Great music too. It's building up so much tension. I literally feel like nervous watching. Wow, these titans are just swimming through. Okay, well, they can actually kill him this way then. It was mentioned how their equipment was really strong, getting strong against titans. The question is just like, how many titans are there gonna be, right? And yeah, a lot, clearly. I think this is already showing that it's gonna be too much for them to handle. Wow. Isn't this that episode 1 music? Damn, dude. I think that's plenty telling. Yeah, these guys know what they're up against now. And know that they're screwed. Holy shit, man. Look at this side. There is just... Wow, this guy's headless. There is nothing stopping this. Man. Wow. Holy shit. Is that Eren? Dude. That looks absolutely crazy. Wow. Look at this. That shot was like episode 1. Great. Wow, what an ending. What an ending. I don't know what to say, guys. Again, it's a bit of an unreal feeling because I just know that like, okay, this was it for now, right? And I will say that having seen this last episode now, once again, for now, I'm happy that I feel a lot more content with where they just left this off than I initially thought I would. Because again, up until the episodes before this, I still felt like, oh, I'm not ready. And now it's like, okay, having seen where they left me, like I said, I'm more, yeah, I feel more capable to actually wait for the finale now next year. The other there's a couple of things that I want to point out about this episode, some specifics, but the one aspect of Eren's plan that I had never considered that oddly made me more... I think I'd been very, clear about the fact that I was never on board with Eren's plan because, of course, it would mean lots of pain and suffering, right? Just for the Eldians' survival. And I don't know, it seemed... Of course, it's unfair, and it still is. I mean, every single plan that they could have gone with is unfair. That's the problem. You know, there is no ideal solution to this. But again, the one aspect that I hadn't considered is that Eren was never planning on basically destroying the whole world and letting the Eldians, the remaining Eldians, have to live with that fact. Because I figured that letting them live with that fact just meant that, again, you sort of shrunk. You shrunk the world's population, but they were still going to be fighting each other. And they were still going to be... again, there were going to be those guys who were mad about the fact that Eren trampled their homes and families with the Titans, even back on the island, right, on Paradise Island. There were going to be people who never wanted this to happen in the first place. It was going to just leave an all-around mess at the same time. Whereas now, hearing him talk about, of course, he was going to, and it's something I guess I should have considered, but again, until they spell it out to you, that's the part where I finally realized, like, oh yeah, of course. Because we know that that's something that the Founding Titan can do. He was going to wipe the memory of everybody, and he himself, of course, only had 4 years to live, so he's going to be sacrificing himself in the end. But basically, he just wanted to, in a way that would sort of lift the curse, right? And you wouldn't have this uneven playing field anymore of, a Titan-infested race, or whatever you want to call it, this cursed race versus the regular people. Would it still mean that, would it mean that all those people would get to live happy lives? Would there never be war among them? I don't think that's necessarily a reality, so it's still vague, and I don't know how to feel about that necessarily. But it sounds easier for me to come to terms with it now, as fucked up as it still is, obviously, and that goes without saying, to literally destroy everybody in his path right now, to make that dream for him, his dream, possible. So yeah, I can't say that I'm on board with this plan. I still am not. I'm not on board with any other plan either. Like I said, the I don't know. I think people misinterpreted me talking about Zeke's plan, right? The euthanization plan, as me saying like, oh yeah, I'm 100% on board with that. I never was either. I always recognized that none of these plans were ideal. But it did seem like the one that logically made the most sense because you're ending the situation, right? And that's, I guess, always what I had been thinking about. Like, oh, I just wanted to end the situation. Whereas I feel like the situation of having one group of like again, a Titan race versus a normal race, so to call it. Whereas I felt like, of course, Eren also had that same idea, except he wanted to keep the Eldians alive, and Zeke was like, no, let's keep the regular people alive. Basically, that was the difference between them. But I had never considered the memory wiping aspect of it, and because I just I just always thought that the Eldians were gonna feel such guilt over it, at least some would. So once again, a lot of food for thought, but what an episode, man. I could have never thought that it was going to be something a little bit different, and actually the vast majority of it was going to be spent in Marley before the events of Season 4, and actually seeing what it was like for them to arrive there in the first place. And of course, that's a big gap in the timeline that we actually, thinking about it now, yeah, we didn't get that really cleared up, and I didn't know if there was much story to be told there, but obviously here we see in this episode now, well, there was. And I saw some, like, the couple of details that I wanted to mention, and I'm glad that I feel like I recognized them, but I love how it paid tribute and it called back to some moments that I'm pretty sure happened in the very first episode. I remember that episode in particular quite well because I did go back and watch my reaction to that a couple of times in the span of watching the show. So, the music that they used, I'm pretty sure that was directly from the first episode. They might have used it a couple other times as well, but I'm not sure about that anymore. But I feel like it was definitely in the first one. Also, at the very end there was that shadow looming over. And I'm pretty sure that's exactly how it looked when Berthold had just arrived at Zaganshina and was looming over the walls, which was such a eerie sight. And it was clearly, sort of like mimicking that, I'm pretty sure. I love that so much. I love how it pays these kinds of tributes. Yeah, again, the messaging that it's bringing across is also so clear with, like, these guys are trying to fight the Titans, but there's no beginning. I mean, Eren is going to get what he wants here, unless he's told to change his mind by the other guys, and we still didn't see that yet. They didn't get to him, which I guess, yeah, I kind of was expecting that for this episode, for them to get around to that, but thinking about it now, they did talk about how it was going to take a couple of days, and so maybe therefore that was, like the reality that they talked about of like, oh, Eren is going to destroy Liberio and he's going to already have made some progress. That is going to be simply a reality. And we're seeing him basically getting to that hill already, right? So, yeah, like, again, the other thing, it's I wish I had more time to think about it because it's almost impossible to right now immediately feel like I get everything that they were trying to go for. And if there is... In the first place, I'm not a very good person with what-if situations, I try to analyze what's there in the here and now, essentially. So I find it so fascinating what that conversation with Mikasa was about. And if Mikasa was, speaking the truth to him in a moment, it feels like Mikasa has always been holding back about how she actually feels, right? And what did Eren ask her exactly? Like, what... Do you look at me as family, or is it because I rescued you back then, or what is it that you like me so much? And she said, no, it's because you're my family, or whatever. And then with Zeke, of course, Eren had this conversation where Zeke made it clear, like, it's not in Mikasa's blood to just obsess over you. She actually likes you, is what he said to Eren. So that makes clear that Eren, in the moment back in episode 14, I think it's something that I saw people talk about, when he was talking down so much on Mikasa and Armin, that was purposeful, which is something that I already kind of figured. I still wondered why. I think people explain it as like Eren wanted them to be far away from them as he was going to do what he did, or he didn't want them to be with him, because he knew there was going to be that moment coming up where he would be essentially endangered, right, by all these other guys. So he just wanted them to be away from him so he could just execute his plan or something. He protected them by having them be separated from him or something. That's essentially how I saw people explaining it, which makes sense. And I think, again, it explains here how, like, Eren does obviously like Mikasa as well. And he really yeah, he's clearly he wants to know the truth regarding it, and you know, I've always wanted to know that in particular because I did find her. I don't know, you know, maybe I was always searching for a bit more of a reason than there actually was to it, but I always did feel like Mikasa was a little too obsessed over him, if that makes sense. Again, maybe that's just because I always approach things from a bit more of like a realistic angle, and I know that I myself would never be like that, but you know, maybe that's just who she is, right? It's very much a possibility. I don't know if there's more to it, or if there's... I like how they're diving into it here, because it's one of those things that I've always wanted to get a clearer answer to from the very beginning. And they always left it out there. They never quite touched on it a lot. They're still getting into it here now, so I feel like there's more to be told there. So I find that cool. I hope they... Well, I don't know if they will dive more into it. I'll have peace with it if they don't. But if they do, that's definitely very welcome. And I already thought that, again, what they did here was welcome. Yeah, I think that's all I can say, guys. I loved it. The question is obviously, where is it going to go from here? Eren is destined to continue on his path right now. So what still could stop him, obviously, is all the guys reaching him eventually, and somehow... And what would that look like, right? I have no idea. But what kind of argument could they present to him to stop what he's doing, or to at least go with a different approach? I got nothing. I hate it, but I got nothing. And... you know, in some way, that's not something to be ashamed about, because this was what my feeling was for a very long time. In all honesty, the entire duration of the show, I got nothing. I have no idea what it's, you know, what the answer to all these questions is going to be, right? That's literally always what I said, and what I was very open about. And still now, I feel that same way. It's like, I see what everybody is doing. It's clear that we have 8 episodes left, and so there's going to be still more to it. I say 8 episodes, by the way. We don't know that for sure. I heard from people that it's going to be around that amount, most likely, judging it by the amount of chapters that are still left from the manga. But not too much longer is left. I understand, therefore, that there's going to be a change in the story, and there's going to be something that will still turn things around in some type of way. But what that is what I'll just have to wait here for. And I'm very, very... You know, like, how should I say this? Not eager, but I'm fine with the fact that I'm gonna have to be waiting here for it. That's the least I could do for the gift that I got of having, you know, being able to have watched this show. 87 total episodes back to back, essentially, in the span of 9 months. It has been, yeah, an amazing gift, and like I said, the least that I could do is wait a little bit longer to find out where that would, where it will be ending things. Guys, I hope that you enjoyed my reaction to this episode. I hope, and I want to thank you so much for having joined me on this journey. We're going to be doing, of course, the Attack on Titan rewatch. That's going to get started almost right away over on the channel, so you can just stick around for that. Make sure that you subscribe to the channel for it, of course. We're going to be watching other shows, and next year I will be back for Season 4, Part 3. So I already can't wait to be welcoming you back when we do get there. For now, I want to thank you all so much for having joined me on this journey. It's been one hell of a ride. And yeah, that's essentially all that I can say. And I look forward a lot to finishing it with you all very soon. Hopefully, well, I don't know. We don't know the exact window. Probably early next year or something. Again, it's not that many episodes, although... especially these shots at the very end with the amount of Titans that they had to be animating. I think that kind of stuff takes a lot of time from what I heard. So, you know, those last episodes might need to have a lot of time and effort being put into them to realize the full scope of what's going to happen. But boy, is it going to be something to be looking forward to. Guys, I want to thank you all for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you back then.